Okay, guys, I'm going to go over the open beta 2 for UFL, give you my feedback. I've got it written down. I've tested the game out. I've got it written down in sections like shooting, goalkeepers, left sticks. Whether you're part of the UFL team, you can watch this or you can skip to a certain section, but I would recommend watching it. I've tested this game a lot. First of all, I want to say thank you to UFL for giving me access. I want to reiterate, they didn't pay me to make this video. I just give my candid feedback from my expertise, and I just love football. I just want to make good football games. I played the alpha, but I didn't play the last open beta one, so I can't compare it to that one. I barely played it. I was away for business, but I played this one a lot. Now, UFL, the game, I would say, in contrast to what everyone else is saying, it's the same game as FC, but just a clunkier version. You know, tactics are the same. The game is the same. Finishing 1v1, how it's terrible in FC, it's just, and you can shoot outside the box in FC. It's the same in UFL. You can just run back with your CDMs and literally defend the way. In fact, what I've taught you in any of my videos, you can apply that to UFL. In fact, if you put my FIFA School Series, everything that you've learned can play into the game. Very, very simple. Everything is very similar. Now, maybe that gives it easier for you as the user to play, but that's not what you'd want. I'm going to go through it now. I played with both a cheap team and had the best players like Ronaldo. I tested it fully on a bad team and a good team. And I also tested it on both ends. So I played to win, but I also tested the game properly. I didn't care about losses because when you play this game, people care about their record. They want to go in playing defensive, ultra defensive. But the key thing is playing and just enjoying the game and not worrying about your losses. And I read all the Discord feedback as well. I've literally been looking at all the Discord feedback and I've been going over it, and I literally read every single one. So hopefully I can try to answer some of these questions. So let's start. Now, the first one is shooting. Now, in fact, let me go overview. The gameplay itself, the gameplay speed is decent. The problem is the game, it forces you to play like FC. FC is a very slow game. Yes, the game can feel quicker if you spam different passes and through ball spam. Driven passes are just so effective in this game. It's unbelievable. But the people saying the gameplay should be slower. No. This game should be at the speed it is, maybe a tiny bit faster, I would say. Maybe for the masses, keep it as it is. But the thing is, it's all it is, a driven pass simulator and a long shot simulator. 1v1s were terrible. You felt unrewarded. And the game itself felt very clunky. You know, it's not about, for example, delay. If you move to the left, players didn't move. You felt like you were not in control sometimes, or the ball will go through you, or a player would run past you. You're running and the player will stop running. I know it's an earlier iteration, but it's very, very important I make it clear that this is inconsistent. If you think FC is inconsistent, FC is basically here and UFL is there. They're many years behind, I would say, realistically, but there's many ways that they can catch up and capitalize on the market. I'll explain that way now. I'm going to focus on some key categories. The most important thing is I'm going to focus on the fundamentals, because the basics should be the heart of the game, especially in the most competitive market, which is probably monopolized by EA. Maybe they can't compete in terms of graphically. The graphics look good. Actually look pretty decent. But they can't compete in terms of monetary aspect or in terms of graphical. But gameplay is where they can win. Shooting, what needs to be changed? Okay, first of all, the no-scope 180 shots are ridiculous. They need to go from the game. I felt shooting to be unrewarding. I would create so many 1v1 clear chances, but I'll miss the play. I can do like a low-driven, a finesse shot inside the box. The goalkeepers are just so overpowered. I'll go over goalkeepers separately, but shooting, I could pass the ball to the penalty arc and do like a 180 no-scope. Think about like FIFA 19 style 180 no-scopes. That is what I felt like you could just do and you could score. You kind of needed the good players. That's what I felt. I felt like you really needed the top tier players. Finishing and shooting should be the easiest part of the game. The hardest part is beating the entire defensive line. When you have a clear 1v1, it should be a goal 99% of the time, just like in real life. If you get the ball inside the box and you're turning away from goal and you miss, that's fine. I'm talking about clear 1v1s. There should always be a goal, especially in a game, okay? It's almost identical how FC is. When the goalkeeper comes out, they're too overpowered. When they stand up and you shoot inside the box, overpowered. 1v1s are terrible. Low drivens, sometimes they work from certain angles, but inside the box, you're basically forced to shoot long shots and finesse shots, which are more OP to score outside the box. Now, there are some benefits. There's not only negatives. Unlike FC, when the goalkeeper comes out, I feel like you've got choices. You know, you can decide to chip the ball, you can finesse the ball around the goalkeeper when the goalkeeper comes out. You have those options. I would say more, and it's kind of around the penalty arc when the goalkeeper moves a bit further. Maybe I can try to draw this out, maybe it can help. But I felt like you had more options in compared to FC, where I feel like in FC, when the goalkeeper comes out, you're basically stuck. So you do have some options. I found that chip shots were effective in FC. When it's like let's say this is the goal, right? I feel like when you are like basically in the box, right? When you chip, you actually have control of the chip shot, because in FC, when you take a shot, sometimes a light chip will just go so over. Whereas this one, you can use the full arc of the power bar to make a more precise chip. So I like that. And near post, although it was some effective from some areas, some areas like near post was just ridiculously OP that it needs to be fixed. So shooting in itself, the big issue is you got to nerf the outside of shots. It's ridiculous how most of the games is basically driven pass, first time shot inside the box, or driven pass to the striker and doing a finesse shot. That was literally what the meta was. Then we're going to go to goalkeepers, which kind of coincides, okay? They need to be rebalanced. For long shots, sometimes I feel they're too weak, and inside the box, they're so strong. It should be the opposite way. They should be stronger for long shots. It should only be like a very good long shot that should beat the goalkeeper. And it should be inside the box. They should be at their weakest, but it's the opposite. Just like FC. And that's what I'm trying to say. It's kind of like a baby version of FC. Think about, for example, if you gave someone an essay to copy and you gave them like the main bullet points in the main paragraphs and just like key points. What UFL is, they're not the full essay. They're just the main key points. And that's what I'm trying to say. It's kind of like a baby version of FC. And it's very, very important that you choose a direction properly. I'll explain that later on. So 1v1s, as I said, overpowered. There's a delay from goalkeepers. It's very, very annoying. Sometimes, like, especially when you have a set piece, when you pass the ball, the cinematics are so long. You know how you pass the ball to the nearest player? Let's say you got a goal kick and you pass the ball at the nearest player. I feel like that's just like... I always, like, let's say the goalkeeper's here. I always pass the ball and then my opponent would go and get the ball all the time. That needs to be fixed. The goalkeepers itself now, it's weird because when a driven through ball comes in behind, if I bring the goalkeeper out, okay, they just sometimes just run past the ball, or they run backwards, or the ball goes past them. It's really weird. It's like when they're not inside the box, they can't control it with their hands. They kind of just forget that they can use their feet. When a goalkeeper has the ball, let's say you pass the ball back to the goalkeeper, their touches are terrible. Now, I understand why this might be a good thing, because it stops people from going back to the goalkeeper and playing slow. But sometimes their touches are ridiculous. You know, the chest and the ball is going like 10 yards away. These are professional footballers. I'm pretty sure they can touch the ball a decent way, but goalkeepers felt very inconsistent. The ball goes through a lot of the players. Now, I know I've tried to put some background shots, and maybe I put it in before or after this video, but the ball can sometimes go through the player's hand. Now, I know that's like a mesh issue with how the goalkeepers are programmed, but the goalkeepers in general, I would say, were just overpowered inside the box. Outside the box, I felt like when a shot came in, they were useless. Through balls would go through them. Their touches were terrible. And I feel like finishing should be the easiest thing. The bad goalkeepers that I used and the good ones, I didn't use Courtois to top the top, but I played against players of Courtois and it was the same thing, really. So goalkeepers definitely need adjustment. And I played with rubbish goalkeepers per se, like 50 rated. And I recently got this one here. To be honest, goalkeepers are actually pretty decent. Let's say, for example, the floor is what I'm talking about. The floor of the goalkeeper is decent. So like a 60 rated goalkeeper is not going to be terrible into the ground. I had like different accounts as well as I was playing. Then we're going to go over to left stick. Now, left stick, it feels so clunky. It's as if players don't really want to move. It's not delayed. Like, I feel like I'm making a turn, but the player doesn't want to turn. I have to re-register the movement. Like, I would say in FC, dribbling is one of my most skilled attributes, I would say. Left stick dribbling. But I feel in this game, you can't really dribble. You did use the LB walk dribble, whatever it was called. That was okay. It's kind of like a bit like a strafe. But I felt like I just couldn't dribble. Even when I tried to work it out with the best players inside the game, Messi, I just couldn't dribble. It kind of felt like players just didn't respond to your actions. Players' touches, by the way, are terrible. You know, not only they not move where they want to go, the ball would come and they would take a touch to the right hand side and they wouldn't take a touch. It's almost like when the ball arrives to the player, for example, like here, you know the player can't do a full touch away or even 90 degrees. You got to take like a 40-degree touch to kind of put the ball in a safe position. It's really, really weird. But the players keep dumbing the ball now. I don't know if that's because I'm using custom controls. I tried it briefly and I saw other players also suffering the same issue because I use the R1 button as the run button. So is the game thinking I'm doing a dummy with the R1 button? I'm not sure. But that was a big issue. And not only did I have it, other players also had the same issue. But taking a touch to move away from the defender was kind of like, sometimes I'll get the ball and the ball will come towards me and like I take a touch away. And then even though I've cleared the defender, it feels like it's a 50-50. Sometimes my player will just stop running or my opponent will just kind of morph in front. It's really weird how left-foot dribbling is. Sometimes when I've used it inside the box, it can be good if, for example, the movements work out like you want to. I know it's very early on, but it forces you to play very, very slow and very, very lethargic. You feel like you don't have control over the ball. You kind of feel like there's petroleum jelly on the ball and you're trying to dribble with it. That's kind of how you feel. So if you want to imagine how it feels, that's what probably the best way of explaining it. Shielding was a bit weird. Sometimes the ball went through and the player wouldn't really shield it properly. But left stick, I would say, needs a lot of work. You know, it's not fluid at all. I mean, like if you dribble in FC, it's day and night, complete difference. Now, passing, as I mentioned earlier, it's inconsistent. You know, you could make a 5-yard pass and you would just mess it up. Like if you made the same pass 10 times, sometimes the pass will just mess up. You know, I felt like not only was the touches bad, but it kind of made the first time or the first touch passes, so like taking a touch first then a pass, lethargic. It kind of felt like the player has a handbag that has like 100 kg because they'll get the ball like on a half turn. They'll take so long to turn and then they won't really make the pass properly. So it felt very lethargic when I was using the players. I really didn't like it. It forced you to play very, very slow. But then that's where the game got ruined because the most effective thing was to get the ball and just spam a driven pass. You could do a 180 no-scope driven pass and it would be perfect. It has to be. You have to increase the angle of failure, especially when you're facing away from the player. It's so OP how effective driven passes were. You can basically face that way, do a driven through ball and it'll go perfectly with even a subpar player. So that was a really, really big issue. The meta was basically inside the game. Driven pass through ball, directly in the middle with an L1 trigger. Driven pass, first time shot, or like a no-scope shot, or driven pass, take a touch, no-scope, or a shot from outside the box. That's why I think people they said in the Discord, oh, okay, look, people find the game too fast. The game wasn't fast at all. I think driven passes made the game appear to be quicker than it was. So that was the big problem, I would say, with passing. Like it's just too inconsistent. Through balls are probably the worst. It's the most inconsistent. Like I understand it being manual, but I think it was too manual to the extent where like if you made a through ball and it worked, you tried to replicate the exact same movement and the ball would not go into the same place. It felt very inconsistent. In fact, through balls were kind of useless. And they were so inconsistent. But if it was more manual, but it was consistent, I wouldn't mind it. Then you have those unrealistic angles of those passes, like, you know, 5-yard pass, I said you can mess it up. It was really, really bad. They should make it where a simple 5-yard pass, any player can do it. Simple. Maybe the better the player's stats are, the faster the pass technically like a 10% radius of where the speed goes. But the accuracy should always be there. Unless you're doing a 180 pass. Maybe like a top tier player, like a Kevin De Bruyne can do a 180 pass within reason close by, but like a 50 rated player can't do it. That's the way to balance it, I would say. And players, they ignore the ball. Sometimes you'll make a pass and the player will like just ignore the ball or kind of move away or jerk away, or it's really weird. Now, the benefit is that lob through balls were balanced. I would say the lob through balls, I didn't think it was too OP. It kind of goes hand in hand with pace, which I'll go over in a second. But I thought if you defended it, you're okay. Now, this is the biggest issue. The AI, it's ridiculous. Like you could aim, for example, to someone who's completely offside and the game will automatically redirect it to the person that's onside. This is what I mean by it's so similar to FC. These are all the things that we complain about in FC. Why are UFL putting it inside their game? Is it because they want people just to very easily play this game? I don't know. But why is pass assistance there? Not only pass assistance, is redirection. I could make, for example, a driven through ball to one player, and for some reason with maximum power, and some reason it just goes a little bit in front of my striker. Like let's say my striker's, for example, running, for example, like here. I will spam it to aim, for example, like here, and it will go perfectly in front. Or, for example, I got a player here and I do a driven pass. I'm aiming, for example, to this player, and then suddenly this player, I don't know, some miraculously onside, and the game will just redirect the pass. Happens a lot on the byline when this is, for example, the box, and people will just spam driven passes to anyone, and the game will just redirect into this play that there is no chance they're aiming for. No chance. So this is the big issue with passing. Almost identical, as you can see, to FC. The exact same similarities, and you can argue even the 180s, for example, on driven passes. Did they make it OP just to make it more viable to play the game? I don't know. AI and awareness. Actually, we'll come back to AI and awareness and skills, stuff like that. Skills and stuff like that is not that important. People are saying, oh yeah, they should introduce a super cancel skill. Listen, when you want to make a good game, focus on the basics first. Okay, I agree there should be a cancel feature, but people want to cancel skill moves. Forget that. You know, it's like buying a car and worrying, for example, oh, should I get the side panel in perforated leather, Alcantara? Should I get it in wood when the car can't even drive straight? Let the car drive straight first, then worry about everything else. Have a good base. Then this is the game that they make from scratch. You should be focusing on a good base. Now defending. Now this is the one that I'm. With everything else being similar to FC, it's understandable. Defending, there's no reward, okay? You can literally, like FC, use your CDM and run. Now, I played very aggressive. I'm talking about very high level pressing in FC, right? Elite level, in case you're wondering. Pressing with teammate contain, there's no reward for manual defending. If you use your defender and you run out, let's say, for example, there's a through ball, and you run out to cut the passing lane, your player has to be in the pass, like literally in a pass trajectory, or you do not get rewarded. So even if you're near it, like your foot is right next to the ball, the player will move the ball away. The game should be rewarding you for defending manually. Why do we want a game like FC where you just use your CDM? I was literally using my CDM. I swear no one could score against me because all I had to do is use my CDM, and I was only using one, not even two CDM, just one CDM and a 4-1-2-1-2, and moving the goalkeeper for the long shots. You couldn't do anything because it was just so possible. But when I tried to be aggressive, honestly, I conceded like nothing. I'm not saying just running out my centre backs aimlessly. I'm talking about like trying to use teammate contain, trying to close players out. There's no benefit. What is the point of making a game, in my opinion, that's the exact same as FC, which everyone complains about being too defensive? Why they're doing it the same way, I really don't know. Switching, which goes hand in hand in defending, is very bad. The L1 switching, it's terrible. Like the L1 will switch to the wrong player. Like I would be next to the ball like this, and I'll press the L1 button because my foot is literally on the ball, and the game will just switch me to a player further away. Now I know again it's early, but it's important that I mention this. It's very inconsistent. Always, most times switching to the wrong player, I'm always double or triple tapping it to correct it. Now in FC, the L1 trigger, for example, is very consistent. People say switching is bad. I agree. Right stick is, but L1 is very consistent. Okay, so much running. Then we have, so then also one thing I wanted to mention as well. Sometimes, for example, a through ball will come in behind and you'll try to switch to the right player. Sometimes the game will switch to the right player. Sometimes it won't. I'm very lucky because I switch early, but I've noticed in my opponents when I'm doing through balls, if they don't switch on time, they get penalized even more. Now, I don't mind that, but the thing is, when you switch those players, it switches to the wrong player, and sometimes it moves the player away. So it's a big issue. Now, the issue that I had in the beginning, there's no ball relative. I use ball relative. I know it's not a priority right now to have ball relative switching as opposed to play relative, but it was a bit finicky in the beginning, but then obviously I got used to it. But that could be just a suggestion, I would say, to use ball relative if you have time. I know the basics are more important. Tackling was just rebound central. I mean, there were so many rebounds back and forth. Sometimes the game would misregister. Like I would win the ball back over here, and the game would misregister me getting the ball. like completely misregister me getting the ball. And like, for example, I'll win the ball back with a tackle, and then the game would try to dribble away with the ball when the ball is not even being tackled. Like, it's still between my opponent's feet. So the game misregistered a lot in terms of tackling. But I would say in general, when I got the ball, they were inconsistent, but they were okay in general tackling. I don't think it was a major issue. Slide tackles was a terrible issue. Like, if someone's running this way and you're slide tackling like this, the game will just use the left foot. Like, you could slide tackle in front, but the game doesn't know how to slide tackle in front. It can only slide tackle like this, straight. So it would use the wrong foot. The logic and the AI logic for understanding, okay, when to use your right foot and your left foot, it's not there. It's really bad. Like, I'll have a clear 1v1. Like, in FC, slide tackles are fluid, and it's always important that I compare this. You know, I agree in FC, sometimes it uses the wrong foot, which I've always mentioned is a big issue, even in FC. But this one, it uses the wrong foot every single time almost. It's really frustrating, and I feel like slide tackles are unrewarding. If you're going straight ahead, I feel like you're just unrewarded with a slide tackle. And like inside the box, if someone's taking a shot, let's say this is the box, right? If someone's taking a shot inside the box, you can't slide tackle to block the lane. I think this is a problem with just the way the player control is. I feel like when you switch to a player, they just don't understand, like, in a proximity where the ball is. And sometimes they'll let the ball go past them, or they would miss the ball, or they wouldn't pay attention. Then we're going to go to teammate contain. Oh, it was useless. Again, it was like FC. It's kind of like you can't press your opponent. Like, why am I forced to then go into squad, go to tactics, and then change to, for example, constant pressure? Why? Why can't I just not press the player? And again, this is going back to copying FC. Why? Like, back in FIFA 19, the gameplay was quick, but you could press the ball with teammate contain. The comp pressure is worse than FC. Like, and what I mean by comp pressure, I think they call it something else. I think, just double check. It's called. I can move my camera for a second. 1 second. Settings. I use custom controls, by the way, in case you're wondering. It's called, I don't know what it's called, but it's called something. It's something defense. Contain help. Sorry. So mine is old school ISS layout. It's on X or square. But that's basically teammate contain. For you, will be default R1. But they just don't press. They stand there. And because the L1 switching doesn't work, it makes it even worse, because you can't switch to the right player in the first place. Then you switch to the wrong player. And then they kind of apply pressure. They don't run properly. They just stop running. Or like they just stand there, then decide to run after. It's very inconsistent. And when you want to, for example, press at a high level, like let's say the opponent's got the ball there and you want to apply teammate contain and manually, for example, go and mark the runner, you can't do that. If someone's making a pass in behind and you're like, okay, you know what? My opponent's got the ball over here, and there's someone running in behind, it's very hard to apply teammate contain to mark that player and then manually control this player, because defending is very unrewarding. Like, if you manually control your players, there's no benefit. You're better off just using your CM and running back. So you can't apply pressure. On the top tier level, it's going to be a big problem, because I feel like it's very easy to hold the ball. You can lob the ball from side to side. At least make it so in the opponent's half, the teammate contain, they always rush at 100% stamina or something like that, similar, maybe like a percentage of their stamina, and they run to get the ball. Because when you play against a top tier player, it's very hard to get the ball back. Almost impossible if they know what they're doing. That's the key. So you can't apply pressure with your centre backs. The game makes you run backwards. It's basically like playing FC. It's like the defensive is more clunkier version of FC. But yeah, the teammate contain was kind of frustrating. Auto switching is frustrating as well. It switches to the wrong player. Sometimes the ball will be next to you. The ball would be, for example, like here, and then the game just won't switch. Like, that's another very frustrating thing as well. And through balls just go through defenders. Like, sometimes, for example, I'll be running back, right? So let's say, for example, I'm going to try to draw this out. Like, let's say on my opponent's running, I'm already switched to my defender and I'm running back. The through ball will be going, let's say this is the through ball, right? This is my opponent running onto the ball. Then my player will be in front, and then he'll just stop. Like, I will press the L1 button or the auto switch, and the player will just stop running. And sometimes, for example, I'll try to make a tackle and try to intercept the ball. So let's say, for example, I'm over here and the ball is coming for example, it's going to be hard to explain this, but let's say that's my opponent. Let's say this is me, I'm in front. The ball is coming here and I've got the ball and I press the tackle button. It will just miss the ball and the ball will just go through. But then if you use the run and jockey, which is slow, you can't get the ball. And if you use the run button, you don't lock on properly. So so they need to really fix teammate contain. Allow the player with teammate contain to run to the ball carrier or wherever the ball is, in theory. Let the teammate contain be able to run to that place and give us the ability to apply pressure ourselves. That's where the skill gap is, okay? Now, pace and movement. Okay, pace is really weird because I feel like even the players, for example, like they got 77 pace, right? I feel like I understand what they've done. I feel like they've tried to deliberately make everyone on the same playing field. So like if you have a player like Harry Kane or someone like that, right? Someone who's slow. So let's say we choose someone like Rodri. Let's just imagine he's okay. I'm trying to see if we can find another striker here. 1 second. Let's say we choose a striker. I'm trying to see if someone's got low pace. So let's say like Kane. They want to make that player usable. But pace is non-existent. Like when I'm dribbling, I'll hold the run button. The players, they don't run. It's really weird. It's kind of like when you hold the run button, you're going to lose the ball. But then less the dribbling is clunky as well. So your best option is to driven pass the ball away. So pace itself in this version, I've been hearing and I've been reading in the forums, people have been comparing it again to the open beta 1, which I can talk about the alpha, but I can't talk about the open beta 1 because I only played like one game, I think. It was away on business. I can't really comment on it. But saying pace is different, but pace is non-existent. They need to put pace back inside the game. I know they want to get that balance right and they want to make all players usable, but this is not the correct way to do it. Then off the ball, pace is very important though. So when you do like an L1 trigger, the pace is very, very important in that moment. Now, I think they need to get that balance right. I think, look, you need to go towards the FC style where pace is one of the most important things. But you know what? Just make no one have low pace. So let's say, for example, Kane, for example, right? Ronaldo has 91 pace. Make Kane have like 84, 85, if that's the real issue. And for example, have these players got like 78 pace. Make that like kind of the lowest, like the floor almost. Because you don't want to, and maybe at these low rated cards, yeah, you can have 68 pace, but they have the system in place. Just adjust pace properly. I know I try to make it all equal, but I don't think it's the right way of going about it. Defenders, they don't catch up. Like, you know, I would have, for example, someone like CR7 running at me, for example, right? And I would have someone like Asp or Klasenak, which basically they're both very good players. As you can see, it's very similar to FC. They're both very good players, 81 sprint speed. And for example, sometimes, for example, Asp, for example, 82 sprint speed, ignore the acceleration for a second. Let's say the through ball comes like this. I'll be running at an angle, and sometimes Ronaldo will somehow still beat me when he's behind. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Remember, I've always taught you in FC, always run to where the ball's going to be. It feels like you can't run to where the ball's going to be because you're just too slow. So then it forces you to play even more defensive. So these are all the things that are making you forced defensive. I think that is the main. I just realized the video is 30 minutes long. That is the main things that I wanted to really go over. It's kind of like a baby version of FC is what I would say. That's not yet ready yet. It's very, very much in the infant stage. The game is not ready to really. I'm happy they delayed it, but that's kind of my opinion. But the thing is, it has potential if the right advice is given. There's a few things I want to say. Look, you need to create an arena or something. You know, let us practice something. I know, just have, for example, on the main menu like an arena, like similar to FC, where you have maybe like a 1v1 situation, just where players can just practice, you know, shooting towards a target. Okay, that's number one. Number two, have a tutorial. You know, I know people like me are here to make tutorials. I've made some already on my nil guides too in this channel, but like, I didn't know what half this stuff meant. Like, give us a tutorial where we know, for example, okay, do you want to see the tutorial when you start the game? Like literally, just have one of the guys, maybe the CEO, whoever was in charge of it, whatever you want, just go through it and explain this is how you play a match. Now I know they have the YouTube tutorials, but have one inside the game, or maybe have like a help functionality where it'd be like, okay, go to my club. This is how you change your club. This is your player. This is how you get to your reserve bench, stuff like that. Because even I had trouble when I play FC all the time, and if I have trouble, can you imagine everyone else? Also, remove the celebration time and the general replays. Oh my god, it's so frustrating. There's like a transition, like a UFL fair to play, it's like 2 seconds long. Then when you score a goal, which is the replay of the celebration, then it's a transition, then it's the replay of the goal, and then a game starts. Do it so if, for example, the person that scored the, do it to this, so any user can skip the celebration. So if anyone presses A, you skip the celebration. But the replay of the goal, only the person that scored that can decide to skip it or not. You'll save so much time. Like offside. Do I really want to see Messi putting his hands up in the air, complaining again and again for like 5 seconds, then having a 2-second animation, then showing a replay of that offside in 5 seconds? Do it so you press A to skip the Messi getting fed up, whatever, because he's offside. Cut that transition down, that UFL fair game, and then just make the offside so you can see it straight away. So swing replays. The RP now, the RP inside the game, look, I understand why they did it, but for the beta, they should just increase the RP, okay? Because the RP is your squad size. Like, can you imagine? Like, I have to now use these rubbish players. I have so much coins, but I can't use the coins. And the beta ends tomorrow. Okay, granted, I played on so many different, I played like on 3 accounts, because I also got the game early as well from UFL, right? Now, I feel like I've just wasted so much because of this reputation cap. And I can't, for example, buy a certain player because there's reputation cap, but I've got like, well, how much I have? 300 million. So I can't even buy Bellingham or anyone unless I play an absurd amount of games. Now, this system that they have, the RP, this is a good system when the game officially releases. Then you can tame it like this. But for the beta, you should have had the RP where you earn like 20k RP per game, so you can very easily upgrade your team. I understand you want players to use the lower rated players to try both, but you've made it so hard, that cap, that it's ridiculous. I had to start subbing players off, like getting these 46 rated players because they're only worth like 110. It's just a nightmare, honestly. One thing I'd say as well, more search filters. So when you're on this one over here, have like, let us choose like just a left wing or just a CDM. Why do I have to choose it like this? Like cam, and then like, okay, I can choose like this. What if I just want to measure it by CDMs? I like this optional thing. That's actually pretty cool. I know about this recently, but you can hide unavailable and you can only see the ones that you can purchase with the coins and RP that you have. But that's what I would say. So definitely add more filters to the market system. The club, what I would say is, look, I like this system. One thing I would say about the tactics, look, it's basically identical. Like, you know, have a look here. It's basically identical to FC, and the tactics is basically identical. Did they do this because they wanted it to be an ease of use for players transitioning from FC to UFL? That's why I believe they did it, and maybe they'll have more options later on in the future. But you need to change the system, make it more advanced. I felt like it was very similar to FC, to be honest. Again, then I like the squad building. I actually really like, for example, the skills that you can get. These are actually really cool. They're almost like play styles that you can buy. I wish there was more options. Like there was a lot of them. Like, you know, you can improve the skill moves, and I was testing like a few things like positioning, and certain players like Ronaldo. I gave him, okay, let me see, for example, like the curl on the shot and stuff like that. And Messi, I actually really like that. And one of my favorite ones is, for example, one of the skills you can use is you can use it, as you can see, to change position. So I can make him a center mid, CDM, left wing, right wing. If FC did it, that would be amazing. But the skills aspect, I really, really like that. I think that's a really, really good system. In terms of the actual system itself with RP, I understand why it's there, but a bit finicky. These skins, I mean, I'm impartial. What I do worry about is like, okay, I'm going to be completely candid here, right? How would they make money from this game? I'm presuming they're going to monetize the battle pass. making it fair to play, and then monetize the battle pass. What I would say is, if you do the open beta again, lower the RP, let us use the better players quicker, because open beta 3 will come out. When the game comes out, you can have like a longer, so you earn less RP, like maybe 200 per game when the official game comes out. That way you can increase the longevity of the game, and you don't get Ronaldo, for example, in the first week. It actually takes you, for example, a couple of months. That's what I would say. But yeah, I would say, look, this game needs to focus on the basics. I think it's very, very important that the game focuses on the basics, because the basics is what, at the end of the day, it gets you the perfect game. Now, should it compete with FC, and does it? Now, I would say it competes with PES, not FC. FC, look, it's got so many high barriers to entry. I don't think from the monetary aspect, financially, it cannot compete. EA are like the main sponsor, like the Premier League and everything, and the amount of money they make with FIFA points, they're not going to be able to compete. Not yet, okay? I think graphics, I think they're decent. You have goals that are going for more like a cartoony style, but maybe they're going to focus on gameplay. UFL is not going for gameplay, and it's also not going for graphics. It's kind of like in the middle. And I feel like they need to focus on the most important thing. The only thing they can beat the competitors with is gameplay. Now, the thing is, this is very important, I give this. I feel sorry for game devs, because how do you know what opinions they got to take? I understand everyone's got a right to an opinion, but I like to use it, and it's important that I say this honestly, right? If I was going to have, let's say, for example, it's an analogy I always give, right? You have to ask experts in this industry. If you asked 100 people, random people on the street, what do they think about this new method in neurosurgery? They're going to have absolutely no idea, because they're not doctors. They're not involved in neurology or anything, just random people. So you have to bear in mind where you take your advice from. I kind of thought about it the other day. People, they give the wrong advice, for example. Everyone has a right to their opinion. But if 1,000 people are saying this is wrong with the game, but they don't understand how the game works, is the game actually bad? And just to give you a bit of an example, right? Imagine people in this Discord, right? And they're all giving their feedback, but there's people that generally think they're scripting. They think they're scripting in UFL, like, and that's what I wanted to say. Like, people think they're scripting inside UFO, and obviously there's not. So I would say, look, the most important thing is focus on the basics, get at a very good level. Yes, listen to everyone's advice, but just be careful on who you listen to, because I feel like that is why we're also in the problem where we are, where most of the gameplay is not good. Because like in FC, for example, the whole cutback meta is because 1v1s are so hard to score. Trivella's outside the box because 1v1s are so hard to score. We're in this situation because people are saying the other stuff, when realistically it's not the truth. But yeah, that's what I would say. And if you are going to give feedback, also when you give your feedback, tell them how to improve. Don't just say, for example, okay, I said to you, everyone has a right to their opinion, but I just say take into account. But don't just say, for example, like, okay, very good. Why is the game very good? What are the benefits? And for example, if you do provide some feedback, for example, like these ones are good, but let's say, for example, you say, I don't know, today the game was 10-10. Why is it 10-10? And if the game is bad, let's say, for example, you think the game is bad, or the league system needs to be changed, explain, for example, why the league system should be changed. That's the best way they can improve. So that's what I wanted to say. So yes, take all feedback into account to UFL, but I would say just take everything with a grain of salt. It's very important to get everyone's opinions, but some people don't understand how the game mechanics work, and therefore they want something when they actually don't want it. But I would say this is veering too close to FC at the moment, and they're being very identical in terms of their gameplay. I would like them to see them focus more on the basics of FC, but done properly. Let us manually defend. Let us run with our centre backs correctly to apply pressure and run back, just like how in real life someone will be like a sweeper and someone will go close and someone else cover it in behind. Let us do that. Let us have that 1v1, and the game feels rewarding. Like we actually beat a defense and then we score a chance, a clear 1v1, and we score. Don't let us get frustrated and put our hands up in the air like, ugh. I just went past someone. Because you see right now, everyone's playing this game. Not everyone's playing ultra defensive, but some people they played. It's a boring game. People playing ultra defensive. You just literally spamming a ball to the strikers and then spamming long shots. It's not the game that you'd really want to play. But that's my opinion. Honestly, I've got so much other feedback as well. But I'm going to close the video off here. You know what? Just in case anyone else is watching, I'm also just going to go over this. So this video is closed now. I'll be making some UFL tutorials as well on my Patreon. So it's patreon.com/Neil Guides. But I just want to go over some of the few of these things here. So it's going to be more. It's going to end up being another 20 minutes now. I'm just going to go over a few things that I thought I'd just glance over. But you can see, for example, the shots, they don't make sense. I think, for example, these ones, crosses, by the way, I didn't really talk about crosses. I think crosses need to be manual. You see, the thing is, crosses, it should be in a situation where realistically, crosses shouldn't allow an easy goal. Crosses should be like something like, okay, you know what? If someone's going to make a cross, it should be timed correctly, and it shouldn't be as easy as it should be. It's like in real life, you go down the wing because you can't get inside the box, but it shouldn't be like how it is. But yeah, I think it's a general consensus. A lot of these advices. I agree with tackling. What else is there? Let's just have a quick look. XP and building is really good. The RP, yeah, I agree. The RP needs to be overhauled. Headers, I can't really comment on headers too much. I did a few. Actually, no, I can. Sometimes it's like FC almost. Why is someone at 6'2" getting completely taken by someone who's 5'6"? Excuse me, I got hiccups talking so much. I don't really know why. The graphics are actually very good. Considering the size of the game, I think the graphics are basically better than PES's. I think they've actually done a very, very good job considering the studio size as well. You can see, like here, very much a consensus here. Over here, pace is probably the biggest thing. And a lot of people are trying to compare it, for example, to the old ones. Tactics, they do work. The instructions do anyway. The roles, whatever they call it, too. Don't know what that means there. So this in pass general is doing things we're aiming to pass through balls when attacking, very consistent. I agree with that one as well. Input delay, you know, I think the game was not input delay. I think it was more like misregistering is the way that I'll call it. Especially with left stick. I agree there was some games where the gameplay was like very bad and very laggy, and that is probably the only time which I'll say is a bit different. Because I'm not going to mention that because that's not part of the game. That's the person I was playing was laggy or whatever. I don't like the sprint though. I really don't. I don't feel like I think sprinting is useless. I agree that it was too OP. Goalkeeper movements, for example, from set piece. This is why this thread is really good. I'm kind of re-looking at some things reminded me. I thought from corners it was very good. I thought goalkeeper movement itself was very good as well. Because at least the long shots, okay, someone from my level, I had the skill to move the goalkeeper and defend against the long shots. It's that long shots were stupid because with Ronaldo, you can shoot with your weak foot, or not weak foot, rather, because Ronaldo, if you look over here, it's not, just in case you're watching this and you don't know what I'm talking about. On this account, I don't think I scored that many because Ronaldo's got technically a stronger foot, but he's 5'5". This account, yes, this account. But yeah, also I was gonna say, when you do play this beta, don't worry about your record as well. Like, you know, I lost and I won like 7 games in a row, then I lost like 5 games in a row. It's important to test these things out. Is very, very important as well when you are testing a game, because a lot of people, they think winning means the game is good. But I would say that, yeah, super cancel, I don't think it's a priority yet, but I think that's something that's important. I think precision passing is something that's good for the future, but again, I think they should focus on the basics. A fake shot stop is what I'd recommend. Skill moves, I'll be honest, I didn't use that much. I found like the fake shot to be good. Like, the first time fake shot, the no, I teach the no guides way. Ball rolls are very effective, especially to beat the goalkeepers. Ball rolls are actually very, very effective. Cut scenes, look, you can see, look here, people, general consensus, it's just way too many. RP unbalance, player stats, not too sure, but I don't really care about the overall. Skin, I agree, it's unclear. They need to make this more clear. This is something I actually really agree with. Again, I kind of go back to, they need to maybe have some sort of like system where they, squad navigation is confusing. Yeah, this is one thing I want. I don't think a text is too small. But one thing I wanted to say is, it's when you first see this, for example, one time I had a red card, I didn't know, for example, the reserves were there. Now, I know you can see that L1, R1, but you don't think about it. You know what I mean? You literally don't think about it. Then you have, for example, the player menu, which is okay. Then you have the skins, for example, which I think is okay. But the skins, I don't think it really gives a good job of explaining it. What does it do? I mean, a card set is activated when you apply more than 3 skins from the same set. So, like, basically, I wasted my time doing skins. Like, I think they could do a bit more explaining on how that works when the game does come out. That's just, I'll be doing tutorials anyway. Oh yeah, the connection indicator. Don't put in the middle of the screen as well. Put the connection indicator on the top right or somewhere else. Do not put the connection indicator right in the middle of the screen. It's very, very annoying to having it there. And I think that is, I'm just seeing if there's anything else here since we're already here. Lock on, yeah, this is one thing I was going to say. Ball lock-ons are much of an issue, I think. Ball speed is only really unrealistic, I would say, for the driven passes. Goalkeepers are OP in corners and crosses, but they should be. I think, look, the thing is with corners are like a cheap goal where you're just going to spam a long shot, let the ball. There's no, see, this is the thing. If 1v1s are very easy to score, and like almost every time you shoot inside the box and the facing the goal goes in, then I don't mind goalkeepers being nerfed on corners and crosses. But when it's more effective to go down the wing or shoot outside the box than score inside the box, that's how you know it's a big thing. Yes, we're not trying to make a game realistic, but to make a game fun, you need to score 1v1, okay? Is it really effective to just keep going down the wing and just spamming crosses? There's a balance between the game fun. In real life, most people are going to score 1v1. I'm not talking about like a half, just like a clear 1v1 here. Finesse shots, I would say inside the box were not that OP. It was only really outside the box. But I'm not really going to talk about the graphical things too much. It's not really too much. Yeah, sprinting is a big thing. Yeah, also heavy first touch. Strong passes is what I would say. I'm loving the game, but the game wasn't very fair to play. Before you say skill shot, okay, I'll give credit to my opponent. It will be good as well in this chat if people also mention what rank they were. That'd be very interesting. Or at least maybe they don't talk about FC here, but like what rank they would roughly finish in. I think inconsistency is the main thing in this situation. This is the thing here. It's impossible to put this. This is what I meant from like the set piece. So this is the ball goes out, goal kick. By the time the goalkeeper runs backwards, then you make a pass to a player that's short. The opponent will just get it every single time. The only way to avoid that is if you lob the ball to the middle guy. But yeah. I think that is basically it. I'm trying to think. Also, interceptions, actually. I didn't really touch upon that. See, this is why this actually jogs it. The game should reward you for manually. I think, like, if you're controlling a player, and let's say, for example, this is the passing lane, right? I think if the player went anywhere near it, but you're actually selecting that player should have a better chance of winning that ball. In this game, you have to literally be where the ball is. Like, you have to basically be standing still, and the players don't stick their legs out in either way. Just how you would in real life or even in FC. So you need to reward players who manually defend. Otherwise, as I said, it forces you to play the game more defensive for that reason, because there's no real benefit to actually defending manually, in my opinion. I'm just going to see a few things as well. And this is what I meant by taking everything with a grain of salt, because look, I want to show you, for example, like here, right? And for example, like here, like please delete the script. I don't really want to show this person's name, but for example, please delete the script. How can there be a script inside the game? There's not even scripting in FC, but this is why we have this big problem. People think there's a script in FC. Everyone keeps saying there is when there isn't. They don't understand the game is broken. And now people are saying it's in UFL, a brand new game. So it's ridiculous. I don't know, people are so obsessed with this scripting whole argument. But I don't know, I think people will just come and say, but I think that is pretty much it. But I hope you just kind of enjoyed the whole, well, kind of the feedback session that I gave on the gameplay and stuff like that. As I said, look, you take everyone's opinion and listen to them, but I would just say to the UFL, just be careful who you listen to. And I'm sure they know this as well. But some people are going to say it from their heart, but I think some people also emotionally, when they're losing, they say things should be changed and this and that. But for example, like here, you said players don't defend, there's no physical contact. The game shouldn't defend for you. That's the thing. Like in FC, the game defends for you, and same in, for example, UFL. But anyway, I think this is great feedback from everyone here, especially like these all information. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. It's 51 minutes. God knows what time it is. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace out.